to round 3 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of October 14th. I'm Catherine Haleko, and I'm here with Nicole Aradix.
Hello.
And Terry Morrow.
Hello.
We're moms of teens and young adults, and when it comes to parenting, we've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. But we're still waiting for that day when we'll reach the finish line and have no further need to lay down in a dark room with a wet rag over our eyes worrying about something or other. Wednesday is complaint day here on Parenting Roundabout, and today we are joining with some other esteemed podcasters to complain about high school math. Terry, you initially heard this podcast. Why don't you
I did.
explain?
I listen periodically to the Freakonomics podcast, and they recently had an episode on math curriculum and whether the high school math that kids are learning now is what they should be learning, whether it has any meaning in their future lives, and really whether it has any meaning even for college. Even though we drive kids to take more and more advanced classes in high school to get because you're going to need it for college and you have to get your scores up and all this stuff. And the finding of the podcast was that really there should be more data fluency, a bigger accent on that, and less on, say, trigonometry, calculus, and algebra 2. And it was interesting to me listening to this because my kids really didn't take the traditional path through math that a lot of kids do now, especially the really high achieving ones. I imagine both of your kids have been pressured to be taking these advanced math classes to get into the college you want and to get, to the place in your class that you want to be and all of that. I've had sort of the opposite problem with kids in special education. You often hear, oh, that's not for them, or, oh, what are they ever going to do with that? Or, oh, why would you put the kid through that? And I'm like, well, if the regular education kids have to take this stuff, I would like my kids to be exposed to it also, even if it makes no sense. I mean, I think in, like algebra, there is some usefulness of that in everyday life. I have this many people I need. If a pizza is 8 slices, how many pizzas do I need?
If I have 130 kids to feed, how many pizzas should I order?
Exactly. See, you are using algebra in your daily life. But I always resented sort of the, oh, that's not for you, honey, of it. And, so I pushed them into things that really maybe was more torture than was necessary for both them and for me doing the homework with them. But I always felt like if you take the kids out of the regular curriculum, there is no particular incentive for them to advance. You can just go every year saying, well, we tried subtraction, but it was too hard. Well, no, this is what they're doing in this grade. How do we get that to work? So I was one of those parents, and I'm sure everybody was very annoyed with me. But I certainly never had to deal with trigonometry and calculus and all that stuff. So it was interesting to hear that, maybe we don't need to be pressuring everybody to take this stuff. Maybe it's just sort of ridiculous and there are more useful things to be doing. And you know what? Maybe those more useful things would have been more useful for my kids also and would have brought them more into the regular curriculum. So I thought I would throw it to you guys, how you felt about high school math that your kids took and, whether you wish there was something else that they were taking instead or whether you think there's some usefulness to it. Was it important in getting them in college? Is it important now? I mean, I don't know what kind of math your daughter is taking, Nicole, but is she finding it all meaningful?
Well,
what do you think? Because I'm looking in through the window at all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a little bit of a different perspective on it because, well, 2 things. First of all, my daughter loves math.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be kids who want to take it and will use it to be like a math major or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and she has no intention of being a math major, but she really enjoys math. And so she was one of those kids that did like the AP Calc and the AP math classes. But I feel like what they were teaching them, of course, was definitely the mechanics of mathematics and the, finding the answers. But the bigger lesson that she learned really was that she had to use her brain in different ways. And so she was doing a lot of problem solving and a lot of analysis. And So it might not necessarily be specific number crunching, but it's a process involved in getting there, which
Right.
I feel like she really developed in that area, because she learned how to look at something and work through it and analyze it and try different, different ways of finding the answer to it. And this is, even though it's with a higher level math class, I think that benefit can be applied to any level type math class, where they're not necessarily, the finding the answer is the what you want. It's how you get there as well. And that's kind of the benefits that you reap from these kinds of classes. And, that your brain you're creating all these different pathways, and you're learning how to think and problem solve and analyze. And I think at least from my perspective and being a teacher too, that I see that, AP Calc would not be super duper fun, but for me, but, I know, like, I took upper level math classes too, but it was definitely a process in, learning how to look at things differently and think outside of the box. And so
I've always felt that was what their purpose was to train your mind and to, train you in problem solving and in thinking, whether you use the actual disciplines in your real life. The neural pathways that it builds are useful for other things.
Right.
That's what I argued, not always successfully.
But I mean, and that's also too the purpose of going into, just taking a breadth of courses in general. It's exposing your.
Well, it's like, why take mind. History? Why take, literature classes? It's because it's about thinking and analysis, not about knowing exactly what happened on which day and which book or whatever. But I think that what they were talking about in the podcast was a lot about, data fluency and understanding data and numbers or not numbers, but understanding data and how to use data. And I think that's so valuable. And that is what I would rather my kids learn that than take calculus. I mean, if they want to take calculus, then great. But, I personally never took calculus, and I managed to get into a really good university, which I'm pretty sure could not happen today. But, I've certainly never regretted not taking, not having that information. I took Spanish instead, and I think that was a better use of my brain and my time.
Yeah.
But I would love to see, my kids being able to understand numbers. And the thing is, as a writer, as an editor, my job now involves looking at scientific studies and trying to figure out what they're saying. So if I had more instruction and training in that, I think that would have been valuable. I had to, self-learn all that stuff. So I think that is valuable.
Well, and I think what ideally could happen is that some of this could be integrated into their math curriculum, because it's, as we're becoming more, as our world is changing quickly and data is, data mining, data collection, data, those are all sorts of big and upcoming jobs that people are being asked to do. And, those, like you said, those are important skills: data analysis, critical thinking, and looking at numbers. So, I think that whole aspect of it should be included into our curriculum, because it's definitely something the kids are going to need to know down the road. So,
but it seems like it should be part of the science curriculum also, certainly in terms of interpreting results.
Those numbers, boy, you can skew.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, it's the problem, I guess, gets to be, something's got to give. You can add this, but you have to take something away, because these kids' days are all so packed. They've already, in our high schools, they've taken away pretty much everything non-academic. So, and the music is hanging on by its fingernails. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if they have tracks of different things. You take this or you take that, but then, one becomes more prestigious and then everybody's going to want to take that.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
I could see them introducing it, but not necessarily being a thing with the AP kids.
It's either going to have to be an elective or it's going to have to be a track. You guys take this stuff. Everybody else gets data. But, everybody could use it.
But then it becomes like a ghetto of...
It's the community college track.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is wrong. I mean, it
is. It is. And I mean, our high school eliminated that track as well. It's like, you got to be, shooting for Yale or we don't want you here.
Right.
So it's very, very difficult for anybody who's not that material.
Mm-hmm.
But, many topics there for further discussion. But I am just glad that I am no longer in a phase of life where I have to help anybody with any sort of math at all. Because speaking of teaching yourself to interpret data, I had to teach myself to do, algebra again. So I could help with homework. And it's like, you asked for this. You pushed for this.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you have to explain these concepts to a kid who's looking at you like, really? And those warm memories. That's it for today's round 3. Tune in tomorrow when we'll obsess about connecting with our kids and then come back on Friday to see what we've come up with for our Roundabout Roundup picks this week. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there on our Facebook page or on Twitter where you'll find us at Roundabout Chat.